The Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission presents JADCO and You.
Athletes, did you know that there are 11 anti-doping rule violations? Failure to comply with these violations can result in a sanction. It is important to note that a positive test is not the only way that an athlete can commit an anti-doping rule violation. The occurrence of one or more anti-doping rule violations is defined as doping. Currently, there are 11 ways in which an athlete can commit an anti-doping rule violation (ADRV). Now let us take a closer look at the 11 anti-doping rule violations. The presence of a prohibited substance or its metabolites or markers in an athlete's sample is one way in which an athlete can commit an anti-doping rule violation. Another anti-doping rule violation is the use or attempted use by an athlete of a prohibited substance or prohibited method. Evading, refusing, or failing to submit a sample collection is another anti-doping rule violation. This occurs if an athlete refuses to be tested, evades, or fails to provide a sample when approached by a JADCO chaperone or doping control officer. Whereabouts failures is another anti-doping rule violation. A whereabouts failure occurs when an athlete receives a filing failure or a missed test. Tampering or attempted tampering with any part of doping control also constitutes an anti-doping rule violation. The possession of a prohibited substance or method is also an anti-doping rule violation. If an athlete or support personnel is found to be in possession of any prohibited substance or prohibited method in or out of competition, then they can be charged. Trafficking or attempted trafficking in any prohibited substance or prohibited method is also an anti-doping rule violation. If an athlete attempts to distribute the prohibited substance or prohibited method and is found culpable of this violation, then he or she can be sanctioned. Administration or attempted administration to an athlete of any prohibited substance or prohibited method is another anti-doping rule violation. If an athlete is caught administering or attempting to administer the prohibited substance to himself or herself or even to another athlete, and this can be proven before the independent anti-doping disciplinary panel, then the athlete can be sanctioned. Complicity or attempted complicity is also an anti-doping rule violation. If an athlete assists, encourages, aids, abets, or conspires to cover up any anti-doping rule violation or attempted anti-doping rule violation by another person, then they can be sanctioned. Prohibited association is also another anti-doping rule violation. Prohibited association occurs when an athlete associates with a person in a professional or sport-related capacity, and this individual is serving a period of ineligibility, meaning that the person is banned from the sport at that time. And the 11th anti-doping rule violation, acts by an athlete or other person to discourage or retaliate against reporting to authorities, has been added to the list of anti-doping rule violations. Athletes and athlete support personnel are encouraged to be aware of the 11 anti-doping rule violations in order to avoid being sanctioned. Once an athlete commits an anti-doping rule violation, they will have a right to a hearing before the independent anti-doping disciplinary panel to answer to the charges of the violation. All sanctions that are handed down by the panel are dependent on the degree of fault and seriousness of the violation. So get the facts, be in the know, and avoid the risk of being sanctioned. The Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission, committed to the fight against doping in sport. For more information, contact JADCO's office at Bellata Multiplex, 1 Bellata Avenue, Kingston 10. Telephone 876-929-3500 or log on to jadco.gov.jm. Feel free to visit their Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter pages. JADCO and You was brought to you by the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission.